The invitation arrived on a Thursday morning. Cream paper, gold lettering, and the faint scent of Sarah's perfume. It had been 15 years. I stared at the name embossed in script, Keith and Sarah Donovan. My brother and my wife. Married. Celebrating 15 years together. The world blurred for a moment. My hand trembled slightly, though my face remained still. I poured myself coffee, black, and placed the envelope on the counter beside the framed photo of Matthew, her son, the one she said was dying, the one she'd left in my care when she ran off with Keith. He was 3 then. Keep him until I can manage, she'd said, tears wetting her cheeks. He doesn't have long. And she left. For 15 years there were no calls, no letters, no visits, just silence. Until now. They wanted me to come, to see them. I almost laughed. The irony was exquisite, because that morning Matthew had left for a job interview. Tall, sharp-featured, alive, very much not dying. I sipped my coffee, eyes fixed on their names. Maybe it was time to return the favor. The betrayal had been slow, almost elegant. I hadn't noticed it until it had already devoured the foundations of my life. Sarah and Keith, my wife and my brother. I used to think she and I were different, that we shared the kind of silence only 2 wounded people understood. But now, looking back, I realized it wasn't silence, it was calculation. She had always been studying me, like a patient examining the man who'd soon pay for her cure. Keith was the charming one, the family's golden boy. I was the shadow that followed him, reliable, predictable. When she left, she didn't just abandon me. She left behind her son, the boy I believed was mine. Except she never called him our son, just him. Take care of him until I figure things out. That line used to echo at night, until the day I found her old hospital report tucked inside a file. It said, Mother, Sarah Donovan, Father, Keith Donovan. I'd stared at those names for a long time, then folded the paper neatly and locked it away. Not because I couldn't face it, but because I wanted to understand it first, to feel nothing before I moved. That was 15 years ago. Now they were asking about him. What happened to that sick kid? Keith's voice in the voicemail dripped with amusement. Did he ever make it past 5? Sarah laughed faintly in the background. They didn't know. They couldn't possibly imagine. I didn't respond. Not yet. Instead, I sent a polite RSVP. I'll attend. Matthew asked if I was nervous. I told him no. He didn't know the full story. He only knew his mother had left. He'd stopped asking why years ago. I never poisoned him against her. I wanted him to decide what she was worth when the time came. He grew into a man who didn't flinch easily. Calm, composed, maybe too much like me. In the weeks before the party, I prepared, not with anger, but precision. I revisited the documents I'd kept locked away. DNA results, birth certificates, hospital reports. I even printed the photo of Sarah and Keith the day they left the country, their hands entwined, his arm around her waist. Everything in order. Every piece of their lie cataloged neatly. At night, I'd sit in my study with the lights low, the quiet hum of the clock filling the room. I thought about all the years of struggle, raising a child I thought was dying, paying hospital bills alone, watching him grow strong despite every prediction. And somewhere in that quiet, something hardened. It wasn't revenge I wanted. It was recognition. The truth, finally standing in front of them. Alive, breathing. Proof that their lie didn't kill what it tried to destroy. Their house was large, cold, and expensive. Keith greeted me first, his smile too wide. Sarah appeared behind him, older but still beautiful in that carefully maintained way. "Well, look who's still alive," Keith laughed. "And you brought no one?" I smiled faintly. Not yet. Sarah's eyes flickered with something. Maybe discomfort, maybe recognition. The dinner was filled with laughter, fake warmth, and subtle jabs. Keith talked about his business. Sarah talked about their travels. Then, like clockwork, Keith leaned back and said, "What happened to that boy Sarah left you with? What was his name? The one with the, what was it, heart defect?" Sarah chuckled softly. "Oh God, yes, poor thing. He must have, well, you know." I set down my glass. "He's doing fine," I said calmly. Her fork paused midair. "What?" "He's alive," I said, voice flat. "Graduated top of his class. Works at a medical firm now." Keith scoffed. "No way. That kid was half dead when you took him." "Sarah, didn't the doctor say?" I reached into my coat pocket and placed a folded paper on the table. Sarah's laughter died. Her hands trembled as she opened it. DNA test results, 15 years old. Her name, Keith's name, and Matthew's. Keith's jaw tightened. Sarah's face drained of color. "Why show us this now?" Keith whispered. "Because," I said slowly, "you finally asked about him." Sarah's voice cracked. "You knew all this time?" "Yes." "Then why?" "Because he deserved better than your guilt," I interrupted, "and I wanted him to grow without your poison." Matthew's footsteps echoed from the hallway then, calm, deliberate. He stepped into the room, tall, composed, a mirror of control. Sarah gasped. Keith went still. Matthew looked at them, his expression unreadable. "So," he said softly, "these are the people who left me to die." No anger, no tears, just quiet certainty. Sarah reached for him. He stepped back. "You can keep your pity," he said. Then he turned to me. "Ready to go, Dad?" The word "Dad" landed like a blade on the table. I nodded once. We left them there, frozen, hollow, broken beneath the weight of a truth they had buried for 15 years. On the drive home, the city lights blurred through the windshield. Matthew didn't speak. He didn't have to. I could see it in his reflection, the quiet understanding of what had been taken and what had been reclaimed. When we reached home, he turned to me and said, "Thank you." I simply nodded. Later, alone in my study, I burned the last of the documents, the reports, the photographs, the evidence. They'd served their purpose. Some truths don't need to live forever, only long enough to be seen. As the flames consumed the paper, I thought of Sarah's face. The shock, the fear, the sudden collapse of her carefully built world. And for the first time in years, I felt nothing. Not anger, not triumph, just peace. Because the boy they left to die had lived, and that was revenge enough.